Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards embracing your worthiness and creating extraordinary success? I am your host, Allison Lacusier, a certified professional coach, a professional speaker, and a female founder. As a passionate advocate for women's empowerment, I've dedicated my career to helping individuals like you unlock their true potential, cultivate unwavering confidence, and live a life aligned with their deepest desires. With years of experience in the coaching industry, I've witnessed firsthand the incredible transformation that occurs when we tap into our worthiness and step into our power. Throughout this podcast, I'll be your guide, sharing insights, tools, and strategies to help you navigate the path towards unshakable self-confidence and fulfillment. Drawing from my own journey as a successful business owner, I'll provide you with practical advice, actionable steps, and thought-provoking conversations with industry leaders. From overcoming self-doubt to setting and achieving audacious goals, we'll explore a wide range of topics designed to empower you to embrace your worthiness in every step of your life. Through these engaging interviews and solo episodes, I'll share my experiences, lessons learned, and wisdom gained from our remarkable guests who have achieved remarkable success in their respective fields. So if you're ready to leave self-doubt behind, step into your authenticity, and thrive as the empowered woman that you are, then this podcast is for you. It's time to claim your worth, align with your purpose, and manifest the success you desire. I'm thrilled to have you join me on this empowering adventure. Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. I have two amazing ladies today to interview all about worthiness, how to step into your confidence as women in business and leadership. And I couldn't imagine two more special women to join me today on the Clearly Worthy podcast other than Dr. Cathy Jameson and Carrie Webber. Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Allison. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're glad we're here.
Today's going to be an amazing conversation. We are going to dive into the legacy that you guys have built in the industry, what you've seen in the industry over the last, years of building Jameson Management, and just any of the struggles that you guys have seen along the way, and what really has allowed you to build this success, and the confidence that both of you women have stepped into in the roles that you've played. So for those of you that may not know, Dr. Cathy Jameson and Carrie, I can't imagine it's many people. I just want to give you a brief overview of what they have been up to. So Dr. Cathy Jameson founded Jameson Management over 30 years ago after she and her dentist husband, Dr. John Jameson, experienced a practice success that really created a buzz in the dental industry and community. So with a master's in psychology and a PhD in management and organizational leadership, Cathy continues to write, coach, and lecture on proven methods of leadership, business systems, and management all across the country. And Carrie Webber is the daughter of Dr. John and Cathy Jameson, and she has worked in the family business alongside her husband Jess for 23 years. So Jess and Carrie have owned Jameson Management and Marketing for the past decade and continue to evolve the services of Jameson to meet dentists and teams. So they're here to help accomplish goals, refine skills, and help them pursue their ideal dental practice vision. And of course, as I've seen, Carrie is a speaker nationwide and contributing author to multiple publications. So welcome, ladies, to the Clearly Worthy podcast.
That was a mouthful. Good job, Allison. Good job.
Thank you. I always really want to make sure that I do these bios justice, because it's only a few minutes that I can really set the stage for the amazingness that's about to happen during this podcast. So
thank you.
So the first question, of course, is sponsored by our friends, Care Credits. And my first question to both of you, and I would love for you to both answer it in your own way, is what have been some of the evolutions that you have seen in dentistry in your time with Jameson Management over the last 30 years?
Carrie, you want me to take that first?
Go ahead.
It's been interesting, Allison. That's a great question, because my husband, John, and I were married in undergraduate school at Oklahoma State University. And I was behind him in school. And so when he got accepted to dental school at Creighton University in Omaha, we were married. So off we go. And I finished my bachelor's degree there and taught school, helping him to get through dental school. And then we started practice, came back to Oklahoma, where he started to practice. And so from the time he started practice, or when we first became introduced into the profession of dentistry, so much has changed. He was one of the very first practices. We were one of the very first practices to computerize. He was one of the very first people to use intraoral camera get intraoral cameras and helped evolve that through time. And he was one of the 3 doctors in the US to use digital radiography when it was approved by the FDA and came over from France. So John was a pioneer in the world of technology. And it's almost hard to believe in today's world that there were practices without computers.
Yeah.
There really were. There were practices without intraoral cameras. There were practices without digital radiography. So we've seen the evolution in that technological aspect of dentistry. But also, and this is Carrie is much more engaged with that now than I, but when we were first starting to practice and move into the consulting world, the majority of dentists were male. So we have also seen that evolution of now the majority of people in dental school are female, and we're seeing that shift to the majority of people actually practicing. It's not happened yet, but it's moving toward that. So I've been so happy about that, so proud of that, to see that balance of the male and the female and others into the world of dentistry. And so, one other thing which in Grace, to Care Credit, who we adore, and used in our practice very, very, very emphatically. But John was the 18th doctor in the world to ever have patient financing in his practice. So once again, we've been doing this for a long time. So I was starting to go out into the world and tell people about this exciting thing called patient financing. People didn't know. And so when I would get into practices and teach them about patient financing and get them hopefully engaged and involved in that, I would realize, oh, well, they don't really know how to schedule. Oh, well, they don't really know how to communicate with each other. They don't really know how to make financial arrangements. They didn't know how to do those things. So I started consulting. I just didn't know I was consulting. I thought I was teaching people, but that's actually how Jameson Management began. It was just evolutionary. And it came about in times when everything was changing. And then Carrie and Jess have taken that and really moved things forward in such a beautiful way. I'm so proud of them, into the digital world and the virtual world. And so with that, I'm going to turn that over to Carrie to let her continue that.
Yeah, but I mean, a perfect way to give you an idea, Allison, and give your listeners and viewers an idea of how much has changed when you think about 30, 40 years of dentistry, 4 decades of dentistry that really encompasses the Jameson story and journey. How much has changed. And that's not even talking about like what you're doing, Allison, with clear aligners and all of the things that are the steps that have taken even further. And a lot of times when I'm speaking to groups, I try to bring them back to a reality of understanding how far we have come as a profession. I show a picture of my dad in dental school in the 70s, taking care of a patient with no gloves, no mask, short sleeves. It's disgusting. And everybody freaks out. And I'm like, yeah, listen, people, I know you're going to tell me that was forever ago, but I was born in the late 70s and this was how they were taking care of patients back then. Yeah. So, we've come a long way, but it's interesting. Now it's more about trying to help practices understand that right under their own roofs, they likely have all of these tools and then some, and they're not even maximizing them.
Right.
Because now they're taking them all for granted because they're just commonplace, like household items, and they don't even use them, like their patient financing, for example. They don't even dig into the depths of how much they can maximize those tools. And so that's really what the conversation is now. But interestingly, when my dad retired in the early 2000s, my husband and I bought the company in 2013. And we realized very quickly how meaningful it was to have a practicing dentist under our umbrella to be able to share with people, listen, we're not only teaching this, we're living this with you. And so for the last 10 years, right alongside our ownership of the company, we've also partnered with a dentist here in Oklahoma City in ownership of her practice, and she is female. So it's kind of awesome. Just, and through that, we've lived through all the things that, men and women both struggle with, the balance of owning a business, leading a team, but then also having a life outside of
Mhm.
work. I do feel like women struggle with that in a different way because of maternity leaves and so on. And it's just been interesting to live through that with her. Um, and not to mention that, that unspeakable that no one wants to say it, but the pandemic, and
Mhm.
running businesses through all of that, and everything that we've learned and evolved with the profession, just keeping up with how much is coming and changing, and the demands on owners, um, and the changes of the landscape, just from, do I go solo, do I join a DSO,
Yeah.
all of there's just so much that dentists and dental professionals and leaders have to navigate anymore. I think it's helpful for them to have resources and advocates that are in their corner trying to help them make the right decisions for their specific vision of their career.
Oh my gosh, 100%. And it sounds like you guys just have such a powerful and robust way to do that and support these doctors. And from my own coaching experience, sometimes I just know how important it is to have like an ear. Like they are like, I feel alone. I don't know what to do. And by giving them that ear, to be able to support them is so critical. So I absolutely love what you guys are doing. And I love that you're taking it from that like clinical perspective with a practicing dentist to be able to really keep your hands wet in the industry, because I think it makes you just a better consultant. So I absolutely love that. My next question for you both is, as women in dentistry, you have paved the trail, like you paved the trail for many to come behind you in the sense of like understanding high level leadership, operations, practice management, communication within teams. And I know that it's not easy, one, to be a trailblazer, and then two, to be a trailblazer and also a woman in dentistry, especially, 20 years ago and 30 years ago. So I would love to hear like any experiences that you had, and how you were able to overcome them and show up as the powerful women that you are.
It's a great question. When I first actually moved into the consulting arena, I didn't even know what a consultant was really. I was just out teaching. I'm a teacher. My bachelor's degree is education. I was teaching. And as I mentioned earlier, teaching people about patient financing. And then it evolved into other things. But this is a long time ago. And so Jameson Management now is 33 years old. And so I was really, there weren't that many consulting firms at that time, and there certainly weren't that many females, and there weren't that many people speaking on management, and again, a handful of female speakers. So it was a pretty it was a pretty unique time. It was interesting. I have been a member of National Speakers Association for a long, 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 long time, and I was talking to a gentleman at one point, and we're describing what I was doing and speaking and all of this, and we were having conversation about how this fit into national speakers and so on and so forth. And he asked how much I was being paid. And I told him, and he said, well, interesting. You're one of the higher paid female speakers. Now, if you were male, you'd be paid a lot more, but you're one of the higher paid female speakers. This is a long time ago. And I was like, really? But so that was kind of a wake-up call, that there has been and there still is a big difference between what females are paid and what males are paid. There just is. It's not good, but there is. And so I think, we, Carrie and I and other females who are in the industry, continue to benefit from proving ourselves. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but studying and staying on top of things and being current. And as Carrie said, they're so active, they're hands-on in the industry. I think that's been very valuable too. And then the study of leadership, and Carrie and Jess do a great job working with practices in establishing their vision. Some people may think they know what their vision is for an ideal practice, but most people have never even thought it through or written it down. And so they help them with that. And that's a critical component of leadership, because how can we move forward or move in any particular direction if we don't really know where we're going? Now that vision may change throughout time, and that's okay, but that is an essential element of leadership. And I don't know, Carrie, see if you agree with me. It seems to me that both male and female dentists, once they understand some of the values of leadership and the importance of leadership and how that impacts the ultimate productivity and the health and well-being of their practice, then they get it. It's not fluff stuff. They'd rather go to a class on composite restorations, but to go on a management course or a leadership course or whatever. But once they can see that this is going to help them be healthier, less stressed, more productive, attract the right people, keep the right people throughout time. All of those elements are tied to one's ability to lead. And I'm writing a new course on leadership right now in some areas of leadership that I've studied but haven't ever presented in a course, because in my opinion, the study of leadership never stops. The study of communication never stops. It's an ongoing process, and we can forever and always, all of us, become better. And I think that's an imperative part of being a successful female, no matter what the role, a dentist, anybody on the dental team, coaches, people in the industries, in professions of all kinds. The better one becomes at leading oneself, being a leader to the members of her or his team, and then also being leaders to patients or clients or whoever it is. I often tell people we cannot, nor do we ever want to push a patient, let's use that example, or a client into making a decision. We lead people into making decisions, hopefully decisions that are good for them. And I think once people grasp that, then they can begin to take off. Carrie, would you agree with me on that?
Oh, for sure. Allison, not to take too much time, but thinking back just my lifetime, when I think about being a woman in the industry and leading men and women, my parents were starting to speak and lecture. My mom was going to see clients when I was about 10 years old, 10 or 11. And I was going to consults and lectures and taking notes, and I don't know, being weird. And
Great.
but I watched it, and I had the privilege of spending time with some of the women of the dental practice management, dental speaking world in the early 90s with Cathy. And
That's
so
amazing.
I always say men and women, the men and women of that time, it was not, there were pinnacle people. And I always say that we're all standing on the shoulders of giants that came before us. And, my mother being one of them, my father being one of them, I believe, Linda Miles, the late Sally McKenzie, these women and men, I could go on and on and on. Bert Press, Roger Levin, Bill Blatchford. These were great people that some are continue to this day. Some we've unfortunately lost, and some are enjoying a new phase of their lives. And I just feel like it would be unfair to not give them the recognition where it's due. And then at the same time, when your parents are John and Cathy Jameson, I can never be them. I can never be them. I'm not. And so I just have to decide, what is it that I love about this? And what do I want to help people? How do I want to serve and just authentically be that person? And you can like me or not, but this is, authenticity is the key. And a passion, and to Cathy's point, continuous learning, a continuous desire to develop and learn and bring the very best and bring something new and stay on top of the industry and be fully invested and all in. That's what it takes. Because I'm not a dentist. So why would you listen to me? Unless it's that I truly am passionate about, the things about transition and leadership and vision planning, those are, and getting systems in place and leading a team. Those are all I'm very passionate about that, because I've lived that myself now in the transition of ownership of Jameson and in the ownership of a dental practice that we purchased from an existing practice. So the transition of an ownership of a flailing practice. And so to be able to have lived it and just say, I want to help other people learn the lessons I learned in an easier way than through having to live through them. but yeah, so sorry, I know that was a lot, but it's really at this point, I think in time, it's what are you most passionate about, and go all in, because there are a
Mhm.
lot more people out there trying to find their way. And the good news is there's a lot more there's more opportunity now than there were 20 years ago, right, Mom, for women in dentistry. We
Absolutely.
still have a long way to go, but the confidence piece, um, man, that was hard for me. I had to figure out and realize for myself that I was shrinking to fit spaces instead of filling the room with what my potential was. And
Mm.
like overcoming that own, I call it head trash.
Yeah.
Overcoming that and just saying, I'm just going to step into this room and humbly provide and serve up something that I hope is helpful, and be very open and vulnerable, and give other people the room to have that vulnerability with me. And that's and through the communication skills that I've learned from my mother and that we teach, as our advisors know and learn, our ability to listen and communicate is one of the founding pillars of our business. Because being able to listen and truly partner with our clients, to help them find their way, is, I think, probably that relationship piece is one of the most meaningful things, about that I think clients would say about the relationship with us.
Mm. Oh my gosh. As you guys are sharing these stories, like I can like feel the values that Jameson has. Like they just like come out so clearly in like your message, like relationship service, like taking great care of your clients, like just and I think that's something that is really important to note too. Like I coach a lot of women and like have overcome their imposter syndrome, their lack of confidence. And you hit the nail on the head, Carrie, with it's not about you, it's about who you're taking care of and who you're serving. And as
Yes,
soon as you can shift the focus on like, am I good enough to how can I serve you? You overcome that so much quicker. And
yes,
so I love that that's, your message. And I love that you said like you recognize that you're shrinking to fit into spaces that you were too big for. I think we can all admit, like, as women, it's hard to say that we're good at something. It's hard to be like, I'm great, but it's important sometimes. But it's, as you said, Cathy, like letting your work speak for you and letting your legacy be built on the ways that you're changing people's lives and the transformation that you're creating in a very authentic way. So oh, so, so good. So many really, really beautiful messages here.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
I want to ask, I feel like I could sit here and ask you guys like 300 questions and we'd be here until next weekend, but let me ask this question. From like the two generations, same family, same vision, same mission. I feel like this is such a beautiful opportunity to kind of ask what do you think is in store for the future of dentistry and like women in dentistry? Like, what do you see kind of coming down the pipeline? And as you've seen the trends, the changes, the transitions, like what do you see for the future?
I have been doing a great deal of study throughout time on the generational differences for many reasons. And I think that as we study leadership, there's two different kinds of leadership: transactional and transformational. Transactional is what was historically more the leadership style, where there's like a top down, more of like, here's the cheese, here's the doctor, here's the person in charge, dictating down to the other people what they'll do, how they'll do it, when they'll do it, and so on and so forth. And there's a place for that still. There's a time when the owner of a business will always say, this is the way things are going to be, or whatever it may be. But now we're moving to a more transformational leadership style where people are heard. And I'm talking about all the members of a team. And this is true of patients or clients, but it's certainly true of members of the team. And also, when I talk about members of the team, this would be like even associates or partners that are coming into perhaps an established practice. There's very many situations, but transformational leadership means that people are encouraged to speak. They are being heard. While I may not agree with somebody, I'm going to honor their ability and their to speak and value that. There is a desire for ideas to come from other people, And again, ultimately, when I think about the one word that probably is describes a team, when I interview people and I ask what they want most in a team, the word that comes out more than any other word is the word respect. Well, transformational leadership is really all about that. And I think as we move into the future, and if a practice wants to attract people that are engaged, which there's not very many people in the workplace who are, but who are engaged, who buy into the vision, who buy into the mission, who want the practice to thrive, and who find in this place, I am worthwhile, I am valued, I am respected, I can thrive here. And so it gives me goosebumps, because that's what it's going to take to attract the right kind of people into a practice and to keep them. And ultimately, with that team working cohesively toward a common set of goals, the practice will thrive. And so I think that is true in a dental practice, but I think that's true of any business, any industry, any organization within our profession or any other profession. Carrie, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. When I think about the future of dentistry, there's a lot of pieces to that. I think there's newfound ways that dental professionals can find a place in the industry. If we just think about dentists specifically, there's a lot of ways forward after graduation that they can take. Their DSO is not going away. DSO is going to just get bigger.
Yeah.
And those are also going to start to spin off and have variety within them. You're going to have the big dogs always. You're going to have more niche, culturally focused or boutique focused type small emerging groups. You're going to have, and you're still going to have solo practitioners. The thing that I think doctors need to become more and more and more and more intentional about is being business people.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that because they don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to make good decisions. And so they do whatever everybody else is doing, or they just pick up an existing practice and keep it the way it is and just try to struggle their way to profit and out of debt, and find themselves in 5-10 years burnout, depressed, and making no progress, and finding no way to find, with no way to find balance. And I was just talking to a young doctor yesterday that's just about to start a practice from scratch, a startup, and was talking about, I think the thing that you need to think about is be really clear about what right looks like for you. Mm-hmm. The Facebook conversations and the groups make me really depressed. Makes me depressed. And I like, you don't have to be this person. You don't have to have a miserable existence. You don't have to, you get to choose what right looks like for you. That's the beauty of being a business owner. It's difficult to own your own business if that's the path you choose to take. But the sooner they make right decisions and work their way that way, it's easier than to unravel mistakes or a way forward that just gets them in more trouble, if that makes any sense. So the clearer they are on a vision. And I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way to be a practicing dentist. I don't think it's fair to say if they want to be an associate in a large DSO and they have found happiness there and they can thrive, then good for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If they want to be a PPO driven practice because that they want to take care of their community and they need to make sure they're in network with the plans that the local refinery offers, then good for them. Then let's find a way to do that well. And I think, stopping the comparison factor and just get clear on what success looks like to you and try to make the best version of that. So I don't know if that answers your question, Allison. I just think that the sooner people can again figure out what does right look like for me, not for Allison, not for Cathy, but for Carrie, and make decisions and start to create that. The sooner they're going to find more fulfillment in the work they do. And as generations continue on, fulfillment is becoming more and more important to people.
Yeah.
Meaning in the work. And so, ADA released a study recently that was talking about why are hygienists and assistants leaving their dental practices, and culture was the number one reason they're
Mhm.
leaving. It was number two for assistants under pay, but
Mm.
hygienist, it's culture. And so if you're going to own a business and you want to hire the right people to help you realize your vision for your business, then, and your culture is is a dumpster fire, or you're not putting any effort into it, maybe you start there
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
create a place that you're going to be happy to walk into every day, for the next 20 years of your life.
Oh my gosh, 100%. Again, just so much gold just in that like little snippet. But
It's
I
great.
think we're seeing this transition in the industry right now where there is more burnout, there is more, unhappiness within the dentist, and a lot of, mental health issues, a lot of physical pain, a lot of things like not going well. But the reality is that there's an answer here, there's a solution. And it really does start with like, what does good look like for you specifically? Like, what is your dream? What is your legacy? What do you want to do for your life? And there is no right answer. And there's so
Right.
many options. And so I think it's 100% true. There's going to be a need to really understand yourself first as a human being and like your dreams, vision, goals, aspirations, and then decide what that looks like in a professional sense.
Yes.
And that's going to be the way that people really transition into a successful life, because success is so different for everyone.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And just as you said earlier, Kathy, that like there's so many more opportunities in dentistry today, especially for women, but it means that we have to clarify for ourselves, like, what do we want to do, and then step into it.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it means like you just have to know yourself better. You have to like really be clear on that vision for yourself and your future and your practice.
May I give you an example of this? This is a
Mhm.
practice that Carrie and I both had the privilege of working in, and it's a female dentist and all female team, and she just beyond precious. She's a mom, 4 children, and so she has chosen. She has a very very successful practice, but she has chosen to limit the amount of time that she is at the practice to balance, to use Carrie's word, to balance her children, and they're very busy from various ages, with her profession, which she loves. So she has looked at the vision. She's worked with some of the advisors that Carrie guides and directs, and she's looked at her vision very very carefully and the practice fits her vision. And it like Carrie said, which I love the point, what was right for her might not be right for anybody else, but is right for her. And that's just an example. We could give many 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 others, but that's an example of just exactly what Carrie was talking about. Is this woman's very clear on her vision, how she can balance her life. She may not generate as much revenue as somebody who works 4 days a week, 8 days and 8 hours a day or whatever, but it doesn't matter, because it's enough, and she feels like she can give her children enough too, and that's hard with 4 kids. It's hard
Mhm.
with 4 kids.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
anyway, that's just
Yeah.
an
I
example of it.
love
Yeah.
I love that example because I talk about this all the time. With dentistry specifically, we have the option to work the schedule that we want. As a
That's
dentist,
right.
you can decide at like what is the most important thing to you, and you don't have to work 7 to 4, 7 to 5 with a 30-minute lunch break and
Yeah.
4 days a week, 5 days a week. You can really set your own schedule, and I think for a
Such
mom, that's an amazing opportunity.
I
Yeah, I
think so.
love that example.
I think so too. Again, I'll give you a little bit more on that example. Is that and she's married, so she does have a wonderful, wonderful husband who helps in the early morning. She starts early, but she finishes very early in the afternoon because her youngest son, who's very young, was walking home from school, and there was some challenges with that, with some challenges. So she made a decision to start earlier, stop earlier, and they worked that out in their home so she could be home to walk him home because his
Mm,
safety was at risk. And so I think that's an other example of what you just said, Allison, is that this profession that we have gives us some flexibility, gives women, men and women, but women particularly who are who have children or whatever, gives them the opportunity to be flexible and win at both ends, the family and with the business as well.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So for anybody that's listening, I want you to just, take this example as inspiration and as permission that if you feel like, I wish I could drop my kids off at school, I wish I could pick them up from school, that it's so possible for you to figure that out. And it is so possible to do that without compromising big revenue goals or things like that. Like in dentistry, we have this beautiful ability to puzzle these things together and live the life that we want. So audit your schedule
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
if I may say,
decide.
thank you. Yeah, if I may say one more thing about that too, is that when a doctor decides, when she decides to also have her practice very well managed and organized, she
Yes.
she can produce more in less time. It's really not
Yes.
about how many patients they see in a day. It's really not about how many hours they work in the day. It's how they are organized and managed and how they're engineering their practice. That's what makes the difference. And so a practice that is thriving doesn't necessarily have to be the one that sees the most people or works the most hours.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
about
yes.
it's about efficiency. It's about efficiency.
Well, and it's also about
100%.
thinking outside the box and
Yeah.
breaking your own habits and your own, probably your own blueprint of what you think is the only way. Because I can see people responding to this like, oh, there's no freaking way. There's no freaking way. Like, you don't know my practice. You don't know my team. You don't know my hours and my schedule. You don't know, I'm trapped, and if your response is I'm trapped, then I think that needs to be spun as an opportunity to say, how can I look at this differently from a different perspective or angle? And how can I break out of the what was and explore the possibilities of what could be? Because what's the old saying? What got you here won't get you there, or something like
Right.
that. I think it's the same thing. Yet it's all possible. It's what's your willingness to adapt, flex, and change to achieve the new vision that you have for your future. And because your vision as dentists, your vision as dental professionals, your vision as professional women, or whatever your situation is, if you're listening, can change. Your purpose will stay the same, but your vision of what you want to do next can change. It's just a matter of how hard are you willing to work, or how far are you willing to adapt the way that things have been, the way we've always done things, to achieve a new result.
Good point.
I
Yeah.
love that. Oh, so good. So good. I hope everyone like just takes that message and like resonates within that, because it's so true. And sometimes like we are living in something that we've built and we don't love it. And that doesn't have to be the case. It doesn't have to be true. And if you need help getting this vision clear, if you need help like even believing that it's possible, you're talking to two amazing experts here. So definitely I'll give you guys how to reach out. I mean, you can just Google Jameson Management and you'll find, but we'll figure out how to connect. But my final question, and I'm so excited to hear your answers for this. And of course, our final question is sponsored by Care Credit. Is a lot of times, like women specifically, we have that mind trash. Like we don't believe that we can do it, that we're capable, that we're worthy of something, and oftentimes that keeps us stuck. And there is so many studies in the comparison where men are like, I am qualified, I am capable, and of course, men go through their own internal battles, and it's not to say that they don't, but women specifically, we have this, imposter syndrome, this kind of perfectionistic mindset. And I've been working with hundreds of women in dentistry, and I know you guys have worked with thousands of women in dentistry. It holds us back from success, and we have to believe that we're worthy of whatever it is that we want to do in order to do it. And so my final question for both of you would be, women in dentistry are worthy of, finish the sentence. What are they worthy of? And what would you want them to know without question that they're worthy of?
I would say that they're worthy of maximizing their potential. And so
Mm.
that's a very broad answer, but it has to be, in my opinion, because going back to what Carrie said, when people really own what it is that is a driving force for them, what brings them joy. My own personal coach says the purpose of life is joy. So what brings you joy? what aspect of your practice brings you joy? What aspect of home brings you joy? What areas outside of either home or practice bring you joy? What brings you joy? And when you honor your own self and you say, I am worthy of joy, because that is ultimately the purpose of life, then what do I need to do to make that happen? So it's not without responsibility. It's a responsibility to our own self to maximize our own potential within this lifetime that we have, whatever that is, uniquely for each individual person. So with that, I'll turn that over for Carrie.
I love that. And I would say women in dentistry are worthy of whatever their version of fulfillment is. Cathy, actually early in Jameson, when I was working with Jameson, she brought in an amazing leadership coach to coach us. Her name was Gail Cantor. She's still doing great work. And she used to say, everybody's just walking around shoulding all over themselves. Like, stop shoulding on yourself. And I feel like women especially should all over ourselves all day long. And man, I would give anything if I could just like reach through this conversation to somebody and say, write it down. What do you want it to look like? What do you want to do? What lights you up and gives you goosebumps and kind of makes you want to cry because you're like, God, I want to do that. And then ask yourself, why am I not? Why not? Who am I defending myself to? And then also to surround yourself with people that believe in you, that support you, that cheer for you, in women and men. And ladies, tell me, is it Jim Rohn that says you're the average of the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with? Am I quoting the right person on that? Yeah. And I think that's really true. Like, find people that have gone a step or two farther than you and be in their periphery, and find people that are confident and comfortable enough to build you up and celebrate your successes and celebrate your creative genius. There's room enough for everybody. Teresa Duncan, when she won the Lifetime Achievement Award at ADOM, said, there were a lot of people that left the ladder down for me and leave the ladder down for somebody else. And so if you feel this strong desire that you could be doing something or something else or something more, seek out people, places, and things, and just go for it. But the first thing you have to get clear on is, what is it? And give yourself permission to write that down and say it out loud and share it with somebody.
Exactly.
Oof, goosebumps. I have goosebumps. There is a lot of power in this conversation. I think my recommendation for the listeners is to listen to this every morning when you wake up, and you will just be so successful. Yes. But there you have it. Women are worthy. Everyone is worthy of these things. And I think too, hearing from Cathy and Carrie, it is possible. And if you need support and if you need help, reach out to both of these amazing women, because they can help you make it happen, and you're worthy of it. And so I want to thank you both so much. And I just want to honor and acknowledge both of you for the change you've already made in the industry, the change you're going to make for decades to come. You've built a legacy, and it's amazing to be here with both of you today to learn about the ways that you help not only yourself create a successful and beautiful company and legacy, but also hundreds of other practices and people, and all of the lives that you've touched. I know I've only dipped the toe into the surface of what you guys really do for us in the industry, but I want to thank you, and just thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Allison. It was a joy.
Yes, great. Thank you so much, Allison, and thanks to Care Credit. And we're very grateful for both of you, and thanks to Carrie.
Yes. And if this message resonated with you, if you know somebody that this message will resonate with, please share, comment, do all of the things to get this message out there so more people can live into their vision and feel worthy of the success that they deserve. So thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.